Greetings, everyone. This is Mike Riley, the voice of Ironman. And this is the Old School Tri Show with my Kiwi mates Cameron Harper and Brian Ashby. The show that talks about all things triathlon, old and new. We're powered by Ansco Foods, bringing you nutrition and good health from New Zealand's beef and lamb. Thanks for listening, everyone. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome along to another edition of the Old School Tri Show, brought to you by our great friends at Ansco Foods. And today, Brian, well, another one of the legends out of Germany.
Indeed, 1997 winner. This man, he's kind of the Roger Bannister of Ironman. He didn't do a sub 4 minute mile. This guy was the first guy to go under 8 hours in an Ironman. His name, Lothar Leder.
Ansco Foods is proud to be the new naming partner of Ironman New Zealand, ensuring every stroke, pedal and stride is powered by the best nature has to offer. Ansco Foods is on a mission to bring nutrition and good health from New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Ansco Foods, putting the iron in Ironman with New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Visit anscofoods.com/Ironman to find out more.
Yes, we've wound the clock back to our winner from 1997, the second to last year in Auckland of Ironman New Zealand. And it's a fine, outstanding human from Germany. We find him in Stellenbosch in South Africa. Lothar Leder, thank you so much for joining us on the Old School Tri Show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well,
So this is my second podcast ever.
Well, we are honoured to have you on board as we celebrate 40 years of winners of our favourite sporting event. And it's interesting, you had victory in 1997, but it wasn't actually the first time you'd been to New Zealand. You'd kind of come a couple of times as a real rookie pro, hadn't you, early on in your career?
I did my first Ironman ever in St. Heliers in Auckland. And it was my first biggest trip overseas. I cleared
from out of Europe and so on, first time down under?
No, it was before it was at the Worlds at the Gold Coast. And I think 1 year later I came to Auckland, or 2 years later I came to Auckland. I had to clear my bank account because the flight was so expensive. And I had a wonderful host family, and they took me home, and it was really great. The best thing about New Zealand was, for me, the first impression was the green, the farn, the green stuff behind the house. I went for a running, and this is so green. It was my first impression. Yeah. And the second impression was you have to pedal downhill.
Yeah.
The roads were so bad.
I can safely say, Lothar, that the roads have not improved very much. They're still the same.
Oh my God.
So why New Zealand then? What made you decide to come here?
I came from a little village, and my goal was to do Ironman, and my goal was to travel. I want to see the world. And I remember my mother didn't understand how far Auckland was. 2 times 12 hours. I went from Frankfurt, LA, Auckland, and it was a big trip for me. But my parents, they never flew a plane, so it was quite an adventure for me as well. And I wanted to do an Ironman. That was my goal, to finish an Ironman. I was too young at that time, and I think I was 11th at that race.
Yes.
And I made no money. That was the big problem. Then I figured out if I can come top 10 or top 8, I can have some travel money, and I can get the things going.
Yeah. Well, you got it going the next year. You came 5th. You came all the way back, and I think you improved yourself half a dozen positions. So that was clearly your career was heading in the trajectory was right.
Yeah, but with 5th, I think you got the flight back, and that's it. You still make no money, but it was a start for me. Yeah. I didn't know I was 5th. I didn't know I was 5th the year later.
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah. And you were 20 minutes quicker. Ken Glar won that year. Can we wind the clock back a little bit further?
Yeah.
What was your sort of sporting background? What drew you to triathlon as a young guy? Because I do note of all those super German cyclists that were racing at the time when you were, you didn't necessarily fit that mold. You were very much a very, very strong runner, seemed to be your strong suit. So what was that your background, how you got into the sport?
No, I was too heavy. I was too heavy for running. I was a swimmer, a bad swimmer. And I watched in 1985, 86, I watched coverage of Ironman Hawaii. And I bought a book about Hawaii, and that's how I started. And because I came from a little village, I wanted to see the world. And I was a swimmer. And then I started to run a marathon with no coach. And I bought books about triathlon and running. That's how I get things started. And then as a German, you had to go to the army. And I figure out if you're in the national team triathlon, you can come to the sports army. So that was my first goal, to make it to the sports army, and you can train probably for 2 years. That was the start of my professional career. And of course, the traveling. And New Zealand has a special thing for me because it was my first Ironman, and I was super surprised about the country, the people, positive.
Yeah. And you say a small village. Where in Germany was home? Where did you grow up?
It's called Worms. The village is the Rhine. It's called Flörs am Dalsheim. It's a wine area. It's bigger than Bordeaux. It's it's the biggest wine area in Europe together. And it's good cycling. And we have a lot of cycling races in our area. And it's along the Rhine River. It has a good climate. You can cycle also in the winter. That's how I started.
Yeah. So, and when you first raced a triathlon, how old were you when you did your first race?
I was 16, 17. I started with sprint triathlons and then Olympic distance. And then my goal was, of course, doing an Ironman.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was too young, but I wanted to do New Zealand. I had a US magazine, and there were the pictures of Ken Clark and Paulie Curie and all these racing down under. And it belonged to the World Series. And of course, Scott Hinley. And I wanted to be like them, as a young guy.
Yeah.
So what was it like trying to sign up to, you say I wanted to go and do Ironman New Zealand, I wanted to go to Auckland. What was it like trying to sign up for the race and the logistics of getting here and being entered and everything for you?
It was more an adventure than a race for me because of the traveling and the host family. They had a good program to staying at the host family, and they took care of you. And it was more about the traveling, not about the sport or about the finish. It was the whole package of seeing the world for me.
Yeah.
So what were what are your memories of that first race when you came to New Zealand and finished 11th in 1992? What were your sort of recollections of the course and the people around you and so on, the race itself?
I saw a lot of sheeps, and and I went for the swim in the local pool. And the lifeguard, he asked me if he can put me a lane for me. Just he was putting in a lane just for me that I can swim, and I was not used to. I was, what? In Germany, you have to fight for your place in the pool, and he was giving me my own lane. It was pretty surprising. But I remember the roads are not so perfect, and the bike course was hilly, and the turnaround was at a nice bay. I can't remember the name. There was a house, and that house you turn around, it was K90, and then you go back to Auckland.
So the turnaround was the Adams house. Adams, I'm sure that was a letterbox, big wooden letterbox.
The letterbox,
Yeah, and that was Kawakawa Bay, I think that was.
Yeah, and it was so beautiful, and I was not used to. And that time we had no mobile, or you had no cameras, and I was telling my parents how beautiful this was, and poof. But I remember it was windy as well. And then the run course, of course, it was a nice neighborhood, but it was super hilly. Oi, oi, oi.
So did you know what the New Zealand course and roads were going to be like before you came, or it was part of the adventure?
No. It was a big surprise, but positive surprise.
When you say big surprise, was it more of a shock because you've got beautiful roads in Europe? The seal is different.
No,
everything.
South of France. I raced south of France, and it was kind of the same asphalt. Yeah, so it was not a big surprise.
Yeah,
but I think I had a 26-inch Quintana Roo at that time with Corima wheels, but it was a fast bike. for these old days.
Yeah.
And I remember Dirk Aschmoner had raced as well. I think when was it, 94 or?
Yeah.
But he was in front of me. I think he won or second. I can remember.
Yeah.
Dirk Aschmoner.
Yeah.
The German guy.
We've met him.
talked to
Yes,
him.
indeed.
Lovely man.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah. So you had that first trip here in '92. And I thought, oh, that was pretty good. I'll come back and I'll do it again. Did you do any other Ironmans in between, sort of after your first Ironman New Zealand, and then when you came back, did you do any other races?
Yeah, I think I raced road in Germany.
Yeah.
The road race, because everyone wants to do. And then I started to do more races, but I still was in the national team for short distance, and we did both.
Right.
And it was the funny situation. We trained short distance and came out quite good for long distance, like Thomas Hellriegel. It was he's my age, and it was the same area, same era.
Yeah.
That was something I was wondering. Was there's so many, the early days of Ironman, there was a lot of US dominance with the US athletes, but the German, Dirk Aschmoner, sort of broke that in the early 90s, but the dominance of the Germans. So there must have been a lot of you in that same sort of time coming through Ironman ranks. So you must be, a lot of German athletes at that time that were racing together around the world.
We didn't travel so much, but we had this Dirk Aschmoner. He had these cool glasses. He looked like Dave Scott, the cool tops, and he had the sponsors, and we all looked up to him. And there was no internet. You had to order the US Triathlon magazine to see all the pictures about Auckland and about US scene, and of course Lance Armstrong. You saw all the pictures, and you wanted to have Auckland like them. That was the early days.
You went very early on. In fact, I think in 1993 you made your debut at Kona at the World Champs, and you top 15 there. I think you snuck in at 14th there. What are your recollections of Kona and the waves of heat and the winds and all those things?
Oh, it was terrible. It was the hardest race in the world. And I think, beside maybe Lanzarote, it was hard, and you make no money. That was the hardest. You spend all the ticket and the accommodation, and for the 15th place, you get the handshake, and that's it. So I figured out I have to be better and train more or harder to get to the top 10.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Ken.
So what was that transition like for you? You had mentioned before that you went into the in the army and got yourself very fit and did a lot of racing. What was it that got you from being 11th place, 14th place to rising up to eventually winning races?
I was driven to be I wanted to be a professional. I was working in the bank as a bank clerk. It was quite boring, and I didn't want to end up in the bank. And I was figure out a way to get out of the bank, and I didn't want to sit in the office all day long. And that was my goal, to be a professional. But it was hard. My parents didn't understand. They didn't understand triathlon, what I'm doing, and it was hard for them that I wanted to be a professional. But I was pushing my dreams. It was all about dreaming. And Hawaii, Kona was like Auckland. It's a far away place, and it was the goal was to go there and to race.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I was looking up your sort of record at Kona over the years, and you had a lot of campaigns there. And gosh, you got on the podium a couple of times. You had a few top fives thrown in the mix there, and so on. So you were clearly right in the mix there, and so on. And I guess it was at a golden time as well, with those German cyclists that I mentioned before, so many of them at the top of their game there. At that time, was it perceived as a running race or a super cyclist sort of event? What was your perception?
Event. I was third in Hawaii, but Thomas Hellriegel won, Jürgen Seck was second, and they all the Uber bikers, they're super fast on the bike.
Yeah.
And I was running fastest marathon in Hawaii, but you get third place, and no one cares.
Yeah.
I came home and the boss of Nike said, "Oh, that's not what we expected." That was quite harsh for me. Third place, and you don't get even mentioned in the press, in the media in Germany. If you're third place, no one cares.
Wow. Wow.
It's hard. You have, as a German, you have to win Hawaii.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I never won Hawaii because I raced too much. I loved racing, and I raced almost every weekend during the summer. So in the beginning of October, I was quite flat. I was dead.
Yeah. There's another race that you did totally own, and we'll come to that in a wee while. But I just wonder, when we started talking, I asked about running, and you were saying you're sort of too heavy and stuff, and you were a swimmer. But clearly, you turned yourself into a very, very good runner. And I look at a number of events, and you had the fastest marathon split, and so many of the Ironmans that you did. So just in terms of inventing yourself as a runner, how did that sort of evolve over the years, and coaching and things? Just tell us a wee bit about that.
I had a few coaches, but I skipped them all, and I trained myself. I listened to a lot of coaches, but I figured out everything for myself. Like, I trained a lot with how I felt. We had the SRM, the watt system, and everything, but I trained a lot how I felt all over the years. And that's how I do my coaching approach now. I try to tell the people that they should listen to the body, to the feeling, and enjoy the sport. It's not about the numbers.
Yeah.
Is that difficult for? Sorry, jumping around a little bit here, but is that difficult for a modern athlete, Lothar, when you say to them, "Don't worry about your power meter, don't worry about whatever else. Just if you're feeling good, go. If you're not feeling great, ease back a little." Like, is that hard for people to understand these days?
Super difficult. Super difficult for the young pros, and even for the age groupers. They're more connected to the numbers. And we're reaching a point, it's not funny anymore. It's too much about the numbers.
Yeah.
And they're not enjoying the sports anymore. I know it helps a lot with the salt. You can measure the glucose, you can measure now the fluid intake. Everything is new, and the numbers helps a lot, but they can also distract you and give you a blockade. They can what is a blockade? They can stop you from being faster, I think.
Yeah.
People they're not enjoying it. And I think with the train by feel, you can push much harder than you think with the numbers.
Well,
that's
the thing is,
approach.
if you're in a good, you'd know this as a coach, but if you're in a good mental state, your body is capable of so much more than you think.
Yeah, that was my approach. You can do a lot of in your head and run the people down. Even you're not the fastest guy in the training. I was in the German national team. I was like top 10 from the numbers and the testing. I was really shit. I was scared to get kicked out, and I still won races. Yeah. So it's not always about the numbers.
Your coaches must have, in the German national team, must have been going, "Man, this guy his testing is horrible, but look at him on race day."
Yeah, it was. I got shits for it because I was so bad in training, and I didn't. For me, running around the track was like not so much fun. 10 times, we did the East German stuff 10 times or 15 times 1,000. It's quite boring,
Yeah.
I better listen to the New Zealand guys running every Sunday 2 hours slow up and down the sand dunes. That was my style. Doing a 25K every Sunday easy, even if you're a fast guy or fast runner. Who was the guy from New Zealand who wrote the book?
John Hellemans.
Yeah.
Is it John? John? Yeah.
The famous run coach.
Yeah. Arthur Lydiard.
Oh, Arthur Lydiard.
Yeah.
Lydiard.
Yeah. I read his book.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that the loop, the Lydiard loop, where the likes of Peter Snell, who won Olympic gold medals, and so many others, that loop, people still run that every Sunday. Every Sunday, people still run that loop, and it's
cool.
You just go out there and they run it. It's incredible. So many years later, it still works.
I never ran, but I was swimming from Ringitoto to St. Helier.
Really, they had that race. They have that. It's a race every year. They do that every year.
Yeah. It was in the week before Ironman.
Yeah. So these days, it's the start of February. They have that race, and it's about 4 kilometers. It's a good race.
But you have to understand that coming from, we didn't swim much in the lakes or in the ocean. It was terrible for me. We swim always in the pool, and then I had to swim from the island back to St. Heliers.
Yeah, and you're swimming through big shipping channels and everything else. Yeah.
So, but the best story when I came back, what it was 97,
Yes.
I told my host family, if I win the race, I get your ticket to Germany. And it was funny. And then I won the race. Next morning, we went to the travel agency, and I got her ticket to Germany, a round ticket. And she
Brilliant.
came and visited road. That was pretty cool.
Oh, lovely, lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
And her daughters, they came to Germany to do a 1 year in school in Germany.
Wow.
So that was my connection to the host family.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, that relationship, and I guess it's there to this day. And let's talk about the '97 race, because I look at the field and gosh, Ken Glar, Stefan Holzner was in there as 2 times defending champion, Peter Sandvang, and then a very, very deep field. I was a wee bit surprised the quality of the Kiwis that raced that year as well. So you're on the start line. How were you sort of feeling that day? Did you feel like sort of master of the universe all the way through the race?
I came from Florida. I was training because Germany is too cold in winter. I was training in Orlando, Florida, and they have only a few rolling hills. And I was quite scared about the race course in Auckland, about the power on the bike.
Yeah.
But I was running good in Orlando the whole winter, so I was pretty confident for the run. But I can't remember how it turned out, the race. I can't remember.
Really?
It was, yeah, no, I don't know which place I came off the bike. I can't remember.
I think there were 3 of you. Yourself, Holzner, and Sandvang sort of set the pace early on, and I think Sandvang got away, but you broke by about the 9K mark, from memory of my reading. About the 9K mark into the marathon, I think that was when you hit the front, and you sort of held on and you won by about 3 minutes in the end. So I think that was how it sort of unfolded.
Okay, I can't remember.
What was it like coming down the finishing chute? Can you remember that? The vibe, the feel of winning a race that had been your first ever?
I did that funny dance with the knees up. I stole it from US football. They had a big celebration. The guy was doing the dance, and I was copying the dance.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Touchdown. Yeah.
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 It was a good touchdown for me. Yeah.
That marathon course, as you were saying before, it was a hard marathon, and I was just reading you ran a 2:53 marathon, and that was very, very quick on a tough course.
Without carbon shoes, yeah. The shoes now are much, much faster. Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. But the course, for a good runner, the course helps you. The up and down, you can go, you can change the stride, and it helps fast runners. A course like this.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to come back and race? I mean, a couple of years later, a new course in New Zealand, the event shifted from Auckland down to Taupo. Were you ever tempted to come back and have another go?
Yeah, but it was so early. I was so busy with doing road and with the sponsoring in Germany, and the traveling. I never came back. I don't know why. My wife wanted to come back, and she wants to go to New Zealand. She's never been to New Zealand. We've been a lot to Australia, and I have to come back to New Zealand one day.
Yeah.
Well, if you come back, you grew up in wine country. We'll take you to some wine country. How's that for you and your wife?
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian will pay.
Yeah, I'll pay. Yeah. Well, you mentioned your wife, and I mean, there's a wonderful moment in your family life where you both were victorious and rode on the same day. I think you won 5 times there, so you're absolutely the king there. But is that kind of your favourite moment in the sport, when you both sort of had victory there?
Yeah,
and
because it's not so often. It's the only time we went both for the win. It's pretty special till now. Yeah.
You clearly loved that course and had some epic moments there. Tell us about going under 8 hours for the first time.
Yeah, I had no watch. I was racing hard, and I was running way too fast. The first 10K, I think it was 34 or something, 34. I went out for the first 10K. It was way too fast, and everyone thought I'm gonna blow up. And I just wanted to win a road. It was not about the time, because you had to win against Jürgen Zeck and Thomas Hellriegel. It was so hard. The competition was so hard. So you just care about the first place and not about the time. So it was surprisingly, it was a fast time, under 8 hours.
Yeah.
But it was not my goal. I didn't know. And people,
Well,
the last 10K, people freaking out on the course and road. If you go 4-minute pace, you can do under 8 hours. But the people are screaming and screaming. That was too much for me. I was trying to focus to get to the finish line, because 5Ks to go, everything can happen. You can start walking and blow up completely.
and for you, when you got to the finish line and you saw a 7 in the front, not an 8, what was your thoughts? What were you thinking? Like, wow, I've done this.
Yeah, but I didn't realize it on that day. It was just about the first place. We had a pretty good coverage from Eurosport. It was huge. They had a kind of live coverage.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the 90s, it was still good coverage. Yeah. Then I got a Nike contract, and it was quite good after it.
Yeah.
But it's not the numbers were not as high to earn like it is now. It was still the 90s. It was not that
Yeah.
much money in the sport.
What were you like as a competitor in terms of managing your nutrition and hydration during races? Were you good at that? It was that, and we
It was
so
still
often hear stories of people struggling with it. But how did you sort of go?
it was still a beginning with the salt tablets hasn't exist, and I had 3 Red Bulls on the record day in the bike bottle, and drinking Coke and Red Bull. It's crazy. You wouldn't do it these days. And I ate 2 bananas or 1 banana. That's it. I couldn't eat anything, just the Red Bull and banana. And it just started in the end of 90s with the gels and everything. We
Yeah.
had gels already called squeezy gels. That was quite good, but the packages was so hard. You cut your lips sometimes if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
open
yeah.
it. It was the beginning of the food thing.
Yeah.
And it went to now it's going to the next level.
Yeah. So all those Red Bulls, are you finally getting sleep now? Have you come down off them all these
Yeah, I
years
don't
later?
drink it. No, I don't drink it anymore.
You had there was another epic win for you there against Chris McCormick. And it's people talk about Iron War of Mark Allen and Dave Scott in 1989, but there was a European equivalent of that at Rogue,
Yeah.
where you and Chris just went toe to toe for the whole
Yeah, but
race.
it was just a sprint,
Yeah.
and it was an uphill sprint. I could use my power. And after this race, I said, I'm never going to do it again to run side by side with someone, because it's too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never did it afterwards. I always tried to get the decision earlier. And I didn't like to sprint. I had a sprint finish at the German Championships short distance. It was the same. It's mentally too tough.
Yeah.
You can win or lose,
Yeah.
What was that day like? I mean, because I think it was only like something like 3 or 4 seconds at the finish line. And I know sort of reading, Chris McCormack's quite a colourful character, and reading his book, he liked to get in people's heads a wee bit. Did he talk to you while you were out there?
Yes, he talks to you. I was running away from him 1 minute, and then I had to stop for a pee, and he came back, and then he starts talking to you. And you're gonna act cool. You talk to him as well, but inside you're like totally dead. And but he's a mind game guy. You have to.
Yeah.
He's tough, very tough guy.
Yeah. You clearly love the sport, and you're still involved in the sport. Just tell us about the back end of your career, and did you transition into coaching when you eased away professional?
I have a big sponsor still, the Erdinger, the beer company, the non-alcoholic beer. And we did already in 2010 or 2008, we did camps for them. When I still was racing as professional, we did training camps, and we're still doing it now with my wife. We're running camps and do online coaching.
Yeah.
But not crazy. Like I don't want to grow a big company. We stay small, and we enjoy the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we don't go crazy with the work.
And do you have athletes that you're coaching from all around the world, or are they predominantly in Germany?
International. Mostly Germany, but I have fewer internationals.
Yeah.
But mainly age groupers. I don't coach pros. I never was a chance to coach any young guys. Maybe in the future, but just age groupers.
And what do you think is the advantage if somebody comes to you for coaching? Obviously, you have a huge pedigree in racing, but do you, as you're saying before about the training, about helping people to understand their bodies and understand what it is they're able to achieve, rather than necessarily always numbers?
I want to make them enjoy the sport and want to get, they should not get injured. That's the main thing. With the carbon shoes and the extreme bike positions, a lot of athletes, age groupers, get injured really quick. And I want to avoid that, to help them to stay healthy. It's more important to win an age group race.
It's interesting what you were saying earlier about technology. You were saying you're riding on the Quintana Roo bike, and you would have just had your normal running shoes. When you look at the evolution, is quite amazing, isn't it? Of the sport and the technology behind it.
Yeah, but we had already the grip shift.
I
think 93. That was fast, and the aero helmets from Giro, they looked stupid, but it's still fast compared to these times. The Quintana Roo was a fast bike.
Yeah, they were beautiful
and
bikes.
26-inch. Yeah, Corima wheels, 4 spokes. They're still riding them now.
Yeah,
or they had 3 spokes. Yeah.
They were one of the quickest bikes probably of all time. Those bikes.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was riding a soft ride afterwards. That was fast as well.
Yeah. Do you still have any of these bikes at home?
You can take a lot of races. Got one on the soft ride.
Do you still have any of those old bikes or anything still at home?
No, it's a shame. I sold everything.
Yeah.
And my original bike from '96 is on the wall from Campagnolo. So I wanted to have it. Yeah, it's in Vicenza. I don't know. It's on the wall in Campagnolo. I never got it back.
I was also going to ask, earlier you were talking that your parents could never really understand that you wanted to be a professional athlete. Once you started winning some races and doing well at the sport, could they understand what you were achieving?
Yeah. When they saw the magazines and the TV coverage, they slowly they knew what's going on. But they went not often to watch they watched Road once and Ironman Frankfurt once. That's it. They never came. Because they're not so sporty, so it wasn't quite interesting. And it's boring to watch Ironman.
Yeah.
My daughter, if you ask her if she wants to watch Ironman, she says, no, I've never watched Ironman. She's bored from triathlon.
In terms of the sport today, as it exists, we've got Super League, we've got T100, obviously the Ironman racing, WTS, and so on. Do you enjoy sort of what you see on a global scale, how it unfolds, and is it quite relatable to the way you got to race, I guess, back in the day?
I think the T100 is good. It's fast, and I love to watch the coverage. And it's much faster or quicker decisions than watching Ironman. And I think you don't get much. From Ironman racing, you can get easily injured real quick, and it takes so much out of you, body and physically. The Ironman race, a distance. So I think the shorter, it's better for the athletes if they don't destroy themselves. But the competition is so high right now.
Yeah. We had the 70.3 World Championships here in New Zealand, late 2024, and just the pace of those athletes over the middle distance racing is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, they run a 106, 107 for the half marathon. That's quite fast.
It's really fast.
Really fast. Yeah. Well, Lothar, thank you so much for making yourself available and joining us on the Old School Tri Show. A huge honor for us to have the 1997 champion. It's wonderful for us to be able to track down people such as yourself, and you're a busy man with your coaching business. You're not even at home. You're in a different country to where you live at the moment. So making yourself available to us, we're extremely grateful. Thank you ever so much for the time, and all the very best to you and your wife.
Okay, you too. Thanks a lot.